And so that judgment's a big deal because, yeah, I'll be honest, I judge people. I judged people my most of my life, and I'll be honest with you, and it started with my family. It started with when years ago when we were kids, we would drive around and the family would make fun of people outside the car as we drove down the street. And now I also look back at that kind of experience and go, that was also a setup for me to at some point go, okay, how can I move beyond this? How can I no longer judge people? How can I forgive people that I may have hurt or they may have hurt me? So I also believe that everything in my path has been, put in my path, whether it was, challenging or not challenging for me to grow from. Welcome back to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Teresa, and this is the TNT Spirit Works What's Up Spiritually monthly episode with Tom. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Teresa. It's great to be here.
So we usually like to get together once a month. Well, we actually get together every single day because we kind of live together. So we like to have this episode every month, just kind of chat about what's going on spiritually and what we've been kind of picking up on lately and things like that. So that's what this episode is all about. If you've not caught one before, welcome.
Yeah. And well, let's get into it. How about that?
I think that's probably good, Tom.
Okay. So one thing that's occurred to me over the last few years or so is how there's so many spiritual people or people talking about, what's referred to as the unseen or the spiritual aspects of life. And, as we all know, there's all sorts of different philosophies and there's, various religions and even in the spiritual world, over time, what I notice is that people's belief systems and what their backgrounds are seem to affect how they communicate what's going on spiritually with them. And I thought it'd be great if we discuss that and some of the ahas that we've had about that over the last couple of weeks in some of our discussions.
Aha, I like that so much. Yeah, that's a big one I feel for myself too, because I've also, as you and I have been watching things on YouTube and talking about things, this is a really good topic because there's a lot of people sharing through their filters. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So where I always go with it is that, we have two parts to us, you might say, here while we're on Earth, and it's the intellect and the feelings. And our intellect is basically our brain, and science refers to it as a conscious mind. Religion refers to the intellect as the head. And then we have our true feelings or our feelings, which science might refer to it as the subconscious mind, and religion refers to it as the heart. So, and I always like to make that distinction between true feelings and emotions. Emotions are like expressions of what we're feeling. And sometimes those expressions are programmed. They're emotional responses to things or reactions to things, and they vary from culture to culture. So it's also a way of communicating, what's going on with us. What I've noticed over the years is that when people come to a new awareness of spiritual things, they often, bring with them some of their concepts. We pick up concepts and habits and attitudes in our first 7 years, like we're big radio receivers and transmitters, and a lot of what's in the environment or what people are thinking we'll pick up on. And some of those concepts and habits and attitudes work for us and some of them don't. But often Teresa and I have remarked, how could people that seem to have greater awareness of spiritual things, they're moving out of, say, the dogma in religion and beginning to relate to their own experiences, or they're beginning to search for answers for things that have happened to them and that they've experienced. And yet there's still quite a wide variety of beliefs, even though there's a basic core. And I suppose you could say that's, true with religion. There's truth in all things, but not one thing has all the truth. So what I notice is that people will translate their experience, which comes, say, more from their feeling part, with their intellect. So the idea is to be in balance. So we have a thought for every feeling and a feeling for every thought, or be more in balance more often. So when an experience is described by one person, it might seem very different from, say, my experience or Teresa's experience. And, you know, the habit that we have in our society is to think that someone's wrong because they don't describe it perfectly the way I would describe it. And have you ever come across that?
Oh, absolutely. And I guess what comes to me too is that, so just like you're talking about different people and expressions and the way they come through with what we've been calling lately the filter, their filter, like, I've got everything that comes through my voice and my mouth comes through the filter of my experiences, like Tom's been talking about, what I picked up in my first 7 years, experiences of my life, what I've gone through. And same with Tom, what comes through his filter is his experiences, and we're all different. So what comes to me is like how we're all on different levels of consciousness. And so we really need, honestly, a variety of filters because of the fact that we all resonate with different people at different times. So one thing that comes to me is that, like, for years ago, I may have followed someone, and I was following some. I was following some astrologers and different things that I really resonated with at that time, and I was like gun ho and loved their presentation. Then after a while, as I shifted in my vibration and my energy, I was like, oh, I don't resonate with that anymore. And then I move on to the next thing. And so I think that's the exciting part about, having so many different variations of people on the planet and filters that things come through, is that depending upon where the person's at and what they're experiencing at that moment, there are people to resonate with.
Yeah, and in fact, an example might be that, well, an example is that I was raised in a Catholic household, and I have some good, religious training from going to Catholic schools and so forth. And there was aspects of being Catholic that I really resonate with, the idea of a soul and love your neighbor. And, to me, those were the important things. Love yourself, love your neighbor. And that we work with kind of a loving God, and in spiritual realms, they talk more about a source, and love is the source and the creative force and that kind of thing. So, there's aspects of when I first got involved in searching, when I became aware that I have a team of spiritual helpers, for example, I related them to guardian angels. But if someone comes from another religious background, let's say, or cultural background, they may have other words for example, spiritual helpers or angels or guides or whatever. So it's important that what I've found is to stay relaxed, is not to argue the intellectual detail of something, but really get into the thrust of the feeling of what someone's sharing. And on the other hand, I think we've been surprised at times that there's people that have say a greater awareness of spiritual things, and they're more aware of their sensitivity and spirit and so forth. And yet sometimes they have really funny intellectual concepts, or in certain areas, they don't bother to get the facts. And so to back up their feelings. Or what I hear you saying is that when you talk about putting it through a filter, I have a feeling for something, and then I interpret that feeling, or I discern that feeling. And, what I'm familiar with is how I'm going to describe it, or it's going to get filtered through my concepts about things. And so, over the centuries, religions have fought each other, and, people have killed each other over the ideas of silly things like adult baptism, or, all kinds of witch hunts and things like that, So we're moving into this new age where, as there's a common theme among what people share, there does seem to be a lot of differences.
So what comes to me about a lot of what you're mentioning, Tom, is the word judgment and the word
Good.
being loyal to myself and not judging other people. And so this is a real big issue in our society. And it probably always has been, but now it's obviously much more prevalent because we have so many ways to connect: media, internet, Facebook, etc., Instagram, like all these ways that we can connect with one another and see things. And when we see things, sometimes, and when someone may be talking about something, we can feel it. So being loyal to ourselves and coming back home to, does this resonate with me? And if it doesn't, I don't need to judge the other person because that's what they're going through and what they're sharing or experiencing. Or another thing that came to me too is how it's like an alcoholic who's been through, say, the 12-step program. If you've not been through that, how can you relate to an alcoholic? How can you relate to a drug addict if you've never been through being a drug addict? And same with us, like for people that have never had any kind of experience with spirituality or the unseen parts of us, which is a lot of it, obviously, we talk about, it's hard to relate to it. It's hard to understand, but yet not judging others for what they're experiencing and what they want to really step into in their life. So I guess it's kind of what I wanted to share about.
Yeah, and one of the things that comes to me is that we have rules and regulations and legal things in our society, and those are based on our religious ideas and our scientific, facts, right? But those rules and regulations are just there to keep us respecting each other and allowing each of us to be able to grow and expand and evolve, in our own way and our own timing. I think that when you hit on that word judgment, that's really key, because if I believe something, I'm going to interpret my experience probably through that belief until this such time as I let that go and I replace it with a different belief or a different concept that seems more true to me at that time. And we often say, if somebody has a crutch and that they have a belief system that, I think is a bit of a fairy tale, let's say, then it's important that I don't kick that crutch out from under them until they're ready to replace it, until they're ready to heal it. So this idea of judgment, this is something that, this is how dogma gets created, and that where I want to go with this is that people who are strong in leadership, who start to interpret ideas for others, and they like to share those ideas, the pitfall is becoming a guru, in that, they get put on a pedestal, and it starts to be, my interpretation fits for you too. That's the antithesis or the opposite of spiritual growth. Because the big aha that I've had is that it's okay for me to believe things that might not be completely true, or it's okay for my partner, or it's okay for my friends and neighbors and people within the spiritual community that I work with, because the only way I evolve as a soul is through my own self-discovery. And now people can provide guideposts along the way. What do you think about that? That the only way you can grow is through your own self-discovery?
Yeah, I totally agree with that because my journey is my journey and no one else can do it for me. No one else has the same feelings or the same, like Tom talking about, beliefs or interpretations, because what I've been through is my own journey. And I think that's where a lot of people sometimes don't really understand about the fact that, especially if there's other people that you really can't relate to, maybe, their thought patterns or, their beliefs in religion or out in politics or whatever. But it really stems back to that we're all on our own individual journeys, and that what we've put together for ourselves is our soul. Now, I do believe that we're all, we all come from one place. So we all come, whether you call it God, source, universe, we all come from there. But then we come down here in these unique vibrations, unique expressions of source, of God. So we're really all God. We're all one. But we have these ways that we're, moving through the experiences and the learnings while we're here in our unique ways. And so back to that judgment, because it's funny because I got kind of stuck on that word, because obviously, I've been going through a lot myself with basically peeling off onion layers and going back to healing of, when I was young and beyond. And so that judgment's a big deal because, yeah, I'll be honest, I judged people most of my life. And I'll be honest with you, and it started with my family. It started with when years ago when we were kids, we would drive around and the family would make fun of people outside the car as we drove down the street. And, we'd laugh and ha ha, look at that. Looks like mom or dad or whatever. But looking back at that, I'm thinking, my God, like the setup that I received from that experience, and it happened a lot, really framed me along the way of how to work with how to really think about people and not and judging them, because I judged people a lot from that experience. Now I also look back at that kind of experience and go, that was also a setup for me to at some point go, okay, how can I move beyond this? How can I no longer judge people? How can I forgive people that I may have hurt, or they may have hurt me? So I also believe that everything in my path has been, put in my path, whether it was, challenging or not challenging, for me to grow from. So that's how I worked with that situation. Cause again, looking back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really intense as a young kid experiencing this. Like we, had drives every Sunday. I don't know about you guys back in the day, but yeah, every Sunday it was like, Dad, let's get in the car and we go for a, 2-hour drive to the mountains or down to the desert. Or I lived in California, so we were in LA, so we were close to, the beach, the mountains, and the desert. So we had a lot of different ecosystems to go and explore. But yeah, so that judging is a really big deal. And as I'm saying it, I really feel it in my heart, because it's a big thing that we, a lot of people and souls, we judge each other all the time, and it affects everyone, really.
So, it's great to evaluate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's great to evaluate where I'm at, how far I've come, how efficient am I being? Am I being successful in my service? So there's a natural competitiveness that's okay. It's okay. But when it turns into a heavy judgment, usually we're looking for relief. We're judging ourselves first, But one of the ideas that I've been reminded of lately is that really, I relate to the idea that the source is love and creative energy, and that the solution is love. And to me, that's what a lot of the great masters and prophets have shared over the eons. Is it's all about love. So, and the opposite of love is fear. And if I'm going to fear something, I might have, well, often I have reactions to things that are not loving. And so what's the simple solution? Well, the simple solution is to get back to my true feelings. What do I feel is true? So how do I start to look at that? And this is something that I've had to practice a bit, and I find new ways to unfold myself so that there's better ways to do it. And one of the ways I've been practicing this is just really looking at everybody as a soul. And where's that soul at? And utilize my sensitivity to see the truth and work with people more from that loving vibration. So if I'm judging the heck out of somebody, that's not moving from that loving vibration. And it gets back to being in my true feelings, because if I really get into my true feelings, what I'm finding is that I don't think the same way. It's if I pivot, so to speak, if I move from my feelings, my true feelings, then life becomes easier. And one of the ways, really the only person's time I'm wasting when I'm in a judgment mode is mine. It's every time I get caught up in judgment, over judgment, kind of a thing, as opposed to evaluating, I'm wasting my time. And what do you think about that?
I think that's a damn waste of time. No.
That's true.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Tom. And it's, as we all, get older and move down our path towards the end goal. And I like the end post. It really makes me consider these things more and look at life and how can we really live life with my life, how can I live by more with being more genuine, more authentic, more myself, and not judging other people, and just really moving from that love vibration. Now I know some people out there may go, wow, that's really hard, or how do I get there? And I get it, right? I mean, I get that it's not easy, and that that's why it's really, finding where you're at this moment, and how can you, even baby steps move into the next thing. And that's also why I wrote, the book, The Soul Quake Survival Guide, because that gives you the 12 spiritual awarenesses that really give you just almost like mini morsels of how to, embrace the bigger spiritual picture, how to embrace, your inner guidance, and steps that really can give you those, baby steps to really understand more about how to work with the spiritual part of you, and getting through anything, and accessing that love within, and getting back to who you really are, that kind, loving part of you.
Yeah, because that's where the real power is in
Mm-hmm.
in our feelings. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the engine of the car, and our intellect is like the steering wheel that helps with, the direction, because we do work in the physical world where we have to work with the facts and have an understanding. And, one of the keys is, if I get um, judgmental, it's realizing it's a flag for me that, oh, what am I afraid of? What's bothering me? Where is my insecurity? It's another way of saying fears, So, great. You found out that you were judging the hell out of somebody as they walk by. What's up with that? So there we go. What's up with that?
What's up
And,
with that? Good,
the
good
thing I love
segue,
about
Tom.
your little Soulquake survival guide is it really helps people become aware of those four spiritual gifts or types of perception and how we communicate. And once you start to become open to that different people have different ways of communicating, it helps me relax, So we often talk about Teresa's an intuitive. She's very factual, to the point. She hits you between the eyes with what she's got to say. And the benefit of that is that you know where she's coming from. I'm a visionary. I tend to paint pictures with words. And so, one of the benefits of that is you can see the whole picture and how everybody fits together. So we all have our strengths, and we all have our areas that we're learning about. But I do want to talk a bit more about beliefs, because, so why is it that we have a commonality of feelings? There's people that say, well, I really feel, that I have spiritual helpers, or I've had these experiences in my early childhood, imaginary friends, or I get chills at times, or I've developed that communication well. And, I always say our helpers are not here to tell us what to do, but they can give us a better perspective and help us. Do we have all the facts? So, when I short circuit the facts and I just go right to a belief system, I wonder what's going on there sometimes. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I have no beliefs about that.
No thoughts about that? Okay. So, it seems to me that it's just a habit, and it's a successful thought habit, and we get reinforced from the environment, and we tend to pick people to hang around with that think like us. And so, in fact, they say that when you pass on, you kind of rise to your level of consciousness. But when you come back here to planet Earth, part of the idea of being here and evolving is that you have, you've got an opportunity to evolve with all sorts of levels of consciousness. So, if I get stimulated by somebody's belief, another thing that I find is that I'm not really tuning into what's the feeling behind what they're saying. What are they really trying to communicate? They may not be using the same words I would use. They may say it in a way that I find off-putting. But if I lived in their environment, or I came from their city, I might find that's how people talk there. So it's, I guess sometimes when I'm getting caught in that judgment, what's coming to me is that I'm just getting caught up in my intellect. I'm rather than getting back to my true feelings. And I don't think there's any like overnight solution to this, because we're all raised in different cultures, in different neighborhoods, and in different family situations. So we're going to have some different preconceived ideas. But if we look for the commonality, then we can kind of rise above that, almost. And I want to say pettiness, but why do I want to rise above it? Because I want to feel better. I want to feel more secure. I want to go more directly to my goal, rather than get caught in an argument over how they said something versus what they really meant. Do you have anything to share about that?
Yeah, I guess what comes to me about that is that, um, well, the forgiveness and
Mm.
really, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have obviously really challenging backgrounds and places we've all come from. And really, I mean, no one's immune to coming in as an enthusiastic soul and then being bombarded by the energy of those they live with, the energy of the environment, the situations. I mean, we all have things that we come in and challenges that we've got to, move through. And that's one thing to keep in mind is that, yes, back to, other people outside of us, is that honoring the journey that each person is on, no matter what it is. And again, if you don't resonate with someone, there's a lot of other people to work with. So it's really just making sure that, that we really take the time to, do that namaste. I mean, I don't like to say that a lot, but like, the light in me honors the light in you. Like Tom was talking about how he likes to really go when he's talked to someone or interacts with someone, he sees them as a soul. And that really takes out the personality. It takes out what do other
Mhm.
people have they've experienced, what are their beliefs, because it's like I'm talking to Tom, soul to soul. What do I need to talk to Tom about? And beyond whatever everything else that Tom's going through, it's probably none of my business because it's what he's going through, and I just need to honor it. So that's kind of what comes to me about that aspect is really just honoring each person and where they've come from, and back to the non-judging, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the words that come to me as you were sharing was really get to the heart of the matter with individuals. So if I'm tuning into my feelings and working with my sensitivity, and I'm coming from that love vibration, tuning into that higher self, that's what sometimes people refer to it as a higher self. Then the answers are there, and I see as a visionary, I can see the common ground, or I can see the real issue. And that helps me get to what we call the heart of the matter. So I like that heart of the matter because our heart is a representation of our true feelings, and that's why there's people that are strong leaders. They have they're good at that. They're good at getting to the heart of the matter. I think that that's one of the games here, and one of it that people play is that they like to manipulate people, and they use their intellect to do that. And we've all been manipulated. I know I've been manipulated, and I can manipulate once in a while if I'm out of balance between my intellect and my feelings. If I'm more in my intellect, then I might, even unconsciously, you might say, or I won't be so aware of it that I'm trying to manipulate or not. But, more and more, if I want to get in the flow and create those beautiful experiences or that, we all desire, the more I need to work with my feelings, but I need to be organized as well. I can't just be in my feelings, or I can, kind of go in circles and not really do more for others than doing for myself.
Yeah, and I found for myself that lately, as I'm working on, my spiritual part of me, I have some people that I have some mentors that I work with on a regular basis. And the more I uncover, the more I unfold for myself, I realize I just don't have time for the BS. Like what you're talking about, getting straight to the matter. And as, myself being a very direct person, I like all the drama. I don't need to know about this person, that person, and what they did to that person. And it just literally, I'm like, just get to what we came to do together and move on because, that to me is more fulfilling. Coming together with people and working as a community or as a unit or doing work with or whatever it's going to be is much more familiar, much more rewarding and fulfilling versus getting into the drama of all the details of what's really going on outside of what we're come to do together. So I guess, yeah, that for myself is really important because I'm just tired of the drama. I'm like, drama llama. I'm just, I'm like so over it. I can't even go there anymore. And so, and I think that it really shows like where you're at energetically because, the lower vibrations really swim in that. They really embrace, the drama and the chaos and the fear and anxiety and all the things that really are a lower vibration. So I guess what I want to say to you listeners that if you find yourself around people like that or immersed in energy like that, you can move out of that situation. You can try to find, people that are more, maybe more like-minded or more, energetically, the same as you, that resonates in the same kind of vibration. Because I know for myself too, as I'm shifting and changing every single day, because I believe that change is constant while we're here, that those energies come in to try to see how well I'm doing. I'm saying that in a really nice way, in the sense of, like trying to throw me off a bit, or, has she really developed her forgiveness? Is she really non-judging anymore, as this person comes and spins into my realm over here to really test me? So that's one thing I've really noticed as I've learned and grown and expanded over the last few years, is that, yeah, I'm tested every now and then, for sure. And, but also remember that we are human. We are, we're here in this body having these human experiences. So we are going to need to understand how to work with these other energies also. And that's something too that I've talked about a long time ago, is that, I can really work and talk to anybody. I can talk to a stranger. I can, Walmart. I can be at a real expensive store, anywhere. There's nothing that really throws me off, because I can kind of relate to people in different areas. But it's really just getting back to that, but staying out of the drama, staying out of that lower energy that really can bring me down, and can really, stir things up. And I don't go there anymore. That's my bottom line.
Well, for me, it's really been great to have people that I can share with and share my experience or my interpretation of my experience and not be judged. So, when you're working in a spiritual community, that's always good to find a community that you can just really be yourself. And no matter what you say, they accept, and they don't have a comment back, or they don't have some advice they want to, feed you. So what really strikes me as you were sharing was that, if I get caught up in judgment, let's pick one thing, judgment, then I start to feel guilty later, or, I have to watch out for that, because again, the only person's time I'm wasting is mine. The only energy I'm wasting is mine. So I can bypass that if I want to. But that takes a bit of practice and old habits, because as you were saying earlier, in our society, the unhealthy competition can take over, which is really the intellect. It's not our true feelings. And, that's something to be aware of. That in different cultures, there's certain prestige to suffering, and there's a certain there's going to be challenges in life no matter what. And believe me, some of us less than others, I suppose. But, we've all kind of work with, different energy and different things. So, however, I don't have to get caught in them. And the more that I kind of recognize, this is what I'm thinking at that time, I can start to change those concepts. But to kind of come full circle, the fact that people have different beliefs, which don't necessarily, resonate with me, is okay, because the only way that soul really grows, or we as souls grow, is we shed our beliefs and replace them with awareness. And us, the reason I earlier said don't kick out a crutch is that sometimes those concepts keep us alive. Sometimes those practices that we have, and the way that we deal with each other, and the way that we talk to each other, at least it keeps us alive and here, and working with what all the great things that are here to work with.
Yeah, so let's leave it on a positive note
Yeah.
too. So let's talk about enthusiasm. So getting to those beliefs that are enthusiastic, that might raise you up, that might, really stir you inside, and light the fire to really do what you've come to do. Because that's really what we're here to do. And sharing these areas around, judgment and, and beliefs and concepts and stuff is just a way to really, give you guys some food for thought. And a little bit about what we've been thinking about lately, what's up spiritually for us, as we've been watching some videos and kind of exploring different people and what they're really sharing out in the world, and how, there's a place for everything. So wherever you're at, there's a place you can find a place for you, a place that, you can call home, or you can work with at this moment. Because like I mentioned earlier, I believe that, I'm constantly changing. So what I'm working with right now and in the field I'm in is not going to be where I'm at tomorrow or next month or next year. So, so I want to ask you, Tom, about enthusiasm. So like, how do you keep your enthusiasm when you've got people coming at you with beliefs and concepts and judging and
Yeah. Well, being in the flow of what I came to do, which is more in a vibration of being happy and free. And, it's that thrust that I have is part of what I've mastered and part of what I resonate, what I emit when I'm relaxed and in balance. When I'm out of balance, as we, and I get judgmental or something, that I'm not feeling happy and free. I mean, there's a clue there. So, enthusiasm for me is really being in the flow of the energy for my life. And as time goes on, more and more, I'm becoming aware of, things I thought I wanted weren't really what I wanted. It's what somebody else wanted. Or instead of reverting to old thinking patterns of what I'm supposed to be doing, then, well, what is it I really feel that I need to be doing? So, as we always use that peeling the layers of an onion analogy, and that's as I grow in awareness, I become more aware. So to maintain my enthusiasm really is just to keep, for me, is the spiritual ahas, the awareness is learning and growing. And, and sometimes I don't even like to say the word spiritual because we make it sound like it's, that it implies that it's hidden or it's not practical to planet Earth or something, but spiritual is just more, for me, the eternal part of me and the awareness part of me, and my energy. So to maintain my enthusiasm.
Wait, say that again. My
I
enthusiasm.
may have something there to work on today, become more aware of. To maintain my enthusiasm, it's important that I just stay in the balance between my feelings, my true feelings, and my intellect, and communicate. So be involved in the things that feel right to me rather than what I think is good for me. And they can coincide. I mean, it's not like one's better than the other, but we have lots of options. So it's important, at least I feel like I have lots of options in life. So it's important that I really work with the flow of what I came to do. And that's, part of that self-discovery process.
Yeah, and for myself, obviously, I love doing this podcast. Very enthusiastic, but I've noticed for myself too lately, I've been finding myself in really ecstatic rooms of people and communities that have really fed me. So I don't know about where you're at, all over the world, listeners, but finding community, finding other people that you can share with, that you can freely, be open with and express and dance and whatever that looks like for you is a really great way to gain more enthusiasm. And that's what I've been finding lately is really finding rooms for myself online as well as in person with people who are just open and just in different places. Like Tom and I said, everyone's different places, but just having that ability to really, to be with other people that are wanting to be enthusiastic too. So that would be my thing is to share.
Which brings me to your making comments in your spiritual community, in that we welcome the idea of people commenting on these videos, on the podcast, and just feel free to share your experience or your interpretation of what we're sharing today. And all we ask is that you keep it respectful. Share in the first person, and because when we share with each other, we give each other little ahas, little keys. You may have a way of saying it clearer than I do that really fit for me right now. So I hope that I've shared something that maybe stimulates an aha moment for you, but I really can't do it for you and you can't do it for me. I have to unfold it, in my good time. Have you ever been told to do something back when we were kids? Our parents would say, you ought to do this and you ought to do that. and you thought, yeah, that probably makes sense, but you went and did something opposite
You never
anyway,
did it.
right?
Yeah.
So we all have to learn from our own experience, and to some extent. And it is good to learn from others, and we can learn from others' experience. But usually we have to relate to it somehow to be able to take it on board.
Great message, Tom. So if you are wherever you're at, I hope that whatever is going on and what's up spiritually in your realm is you might have gotten a little bit of insights today from Tom and I, and just kind of what's been going on for us, and just sharing with you guys a little bit about the journey. So yeah, so thank you, Tom, for coming on again this month and sharing. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You can go to the other room now. Just kidding. Letting you guys know, hey, yeah, we do this from our house. We are entrepreneurs out in the world doing this from our house. So until next week, please, like Tom said, please make sure that you do like, you do share. Please leave a comment if you found something stimulating or fun or enthusiastic about this episode. We would definitely love a review on Apple Podcast, as well as if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a review, a comment or review below. We really appreciate it. And otherwise, until next week, just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.